Gideon Marsh stood frozen at the barn door, his calloused hand gripping the rusty handle, heart pounding as whispers floated through the darkness. 8 young voices, soft as prayers, murmured his name like he was their salvation. Years of solitude on his failing ranch had made him question his sanity, but these voices were real, desperate, haunting, and undeniable. The morning had begun like any other, coffee bitter as regret, silence heavy as dust, the weight of loss pressing down. 3 winters ago, fever stole his wife and daughter, leaving Gideon to build a life around avoidance, shunning the townsfolk who'd long stopped trying to pull him back into the world. He preferred it that way. He'd trudge to the barn to tend his dwindling cattle, expecting the usual routine. The sagging structure, paint peeling like old wounds, still stood despite neglect. But as he neared the doors, the air grew taut, a prickling unease raising the hairs on his neck. Then he heard them. Children's voices, chanting his name with fervent hope, as if he, a broken man, could be their savior. His mind flashed to half-heard gossip in town months back, tales of the Clearwater Home for Girls, an orphanage 20 miles east, where children vanished into the night, ruled by a headmaster with iron fists and hollow promises. Gideon had dismissed it as idle chatter, the kind folk spun to soothe their own troubles. Pressing his ear to the weathered wood, he listened. The whispers sharpened, 8 girls, speaking of him as their answer to some unspeakable horror. How did they know him? He hadn't spoken to anyone in months, hadn't done anything worth noting. The voices fell silent, replaced by shuffling feet and quick, frightened breaths. They knew he was there, waiting for him to act. Gideon's hand trembled on the handle. Inside were children who'd fled something terrible, believing a bitter rancher could save them. But he was no hero, his failures still haunted him. The door creaked open like a gunshot in the stillness. 8 girls, aged 8 to 16, huddled in the corner, their torn clothes and tear-streaked faces betraying hardship. Their eyes held fear laced with desperate hope. The oldest, a girl with auburn hair and storm-gray eyes, stepped forward, defiance masking her trembling voice. "Mr. Marsh," she said. "We've been waiting for you. I'm Cora Bell. How do you know my name?" Gideon's voice was gruff, his world tilting. "We heard about you in town," Cora Bell replied. "They say you're a good man who keeps to himself. That you lost your family and know what it's like to be alone." Her words struck like a blade. He'd thought his grief was private, buried with his wife and daughter. Yet these girls had sought him out because of it. The others watched, some barely 10, faces still soft with youth despite their pain, others hardened beyond their years. "What are you running from?" Gideon asked, dreading the answer. "Clearwater Home," Cora Bell said, jaw tight. "They call it an orphanage, but it's a prison. The headmaster, Mr. Dalton, sells older girls to men who come at night. The younger ones work until their hands bleed." Her blunt words turned his stomach. This wasn't childish exaggeration but a cold truth born of suffering. "We ran 3 nights ago," she continued. "Been walking since, hiding by day, following stories of a man who'd understand sanctuary." Gideon saw his daughter, Sarah, in their faces, she'd be the youngest's age now. His chest tightened with grief and duty. "I can't," he began, then stopped, unable to send them away. They'd come to him, believing he was their hope, but his ranch was barely surviving, and attention from authorities would unravel his quiet life. The youngest, a waif with tangled blonde hair, wept silently, tears cutting through the dirt on her cheeks. "Please, Mr. Marsh," Cora Bell pleaded. "Just a place to hide until we figure out what's next. We'll work for our keep." His supplies wouldn't last 3 months with 8 more mouths, but their hunger decided him. "When'd you last eat?" he asked. "Day before yesterday," a middle girl whispered. "Unripe berries by the creek." "Come to the house," he said gruffly. "I'll fix something." Their relief was palpable as they gathered meager bundles and followed him to his cabin. The sturdy but worn building felt crowded with their presence, stirring memories of his family. He prepared beans, salt pork, and day-old bread, meager, but more than they'd had in days. As he served, Corabel's voice turned grave. "There's something else." Dalton posted a reward, $50 per girl, $400 total. "His men are close, maybe 5 miles back, with dogs." Gideon's hand froze, the spoon clattering. $400 could draw every bounty hunter in 3 territories. "They'll hurt you too," Corabel added. The last man who helped Dalton's girls ended up dead in the river. "How many men?" he asked. 6, maybe more, she replied. "They're offering a share of the reward." Gideon grabbed his Winchester, checking its action, 30 rounds, enough for a skirmish, not a siege. "There's a root cellar under the kitchen," he said, revealing a trapdoor. "It'll hide you if they come." The girls nodded, fear growing as they realized safety was fleeting. As they climbed into the cramped cellar, the distant baying of dogs cut through the air. The girls froze, panic rising. "Nobody moves," Gideon commanded. "Running now gets you caught." He scanned the horizon, spotting dust clouds 2 miles out. Riders were coming fast. "Into the cellar," he ordered, securing the trapdoor and disguising it with the table and scattered dishes. He hid extra bowls in a flour barrel, erasing signs of the girls. Hoofbeats and barking grew louder as 6 riders approached, led by a tall man with graying hair and cold eyes, Clayton, a hired gun radiating menace. "Morning," Clayton called. "We're tracking runaways from Clearwater home. Dogs say they're here." "Haven't seen any children," Gideon replied, rifle ready. "Property's been quiet." Clayton's eyes narrowed. "Mind if we look around?" "We've got a warrant." "From who?" Gideon challenged. Clayton produced a paper. "Territorial magistrate. These girls are Clearwater's property." "Interesting way to describe children," Gideon said, noting the dog's agitation toward the kitchen. Clayton pressed, but Gideon stood firm. "You're not invited in." The situation tensed as Clayton's men surrounded the cabin. A hound broke free, clawing at the kitchen window, betraying the girl's presence. "Looks like Rex disagrees," Clayton sneered. Gideon's bluff faltered. He was 1 man against 6, outmatched. But then, a shout, "Riders coming." Dust rose from the east, and Sheriff Morrison, badge gleaming, rode in with 2 deputies. "Morning, Gideon," Morrison said, assessing the scene. Clayton waved his warrant, but Morrison, after reading it, revealed, "Clearwater's operations are suspended. This warrant's worthless." Clayton's face twisted with rage, but Morrison stood firm. "Mount up and leave." The bounty hunters hesitated, their advantage gone. Gideon's relief was tempered by Clayton's lingering threat, he wasn't a man to give up easily. As the riders retreated, Gideon knew this was only a pause. The girls were safe for now, but Dalton's reach was long, and $400 would keep trouble coming. He glanced at the trapdoor, the weight of 8 lives settling on his shoulders, forcing him to confront a past he'd tried to bury.